Good afternoon from Berlin. In just 3 days, the world has seen the city transformed from one divided by a cruel wall to one where its citizens from both east and west may come and go as they please. Freedoms taken for granted for so long in the west have caused a culture shock in the east. And the process continues. As I speak to you, new crossings are opened across the border. Here at the Brandenburg Gate, where the party's been going on for 2 days, the atmosphere has toned down a little. You can see across the wall into the east, down what was Unter den Linden Strasse before 1939, the White Wall, effectively, of East Germany. The wall running across there, the multicoloured slogans and motifs that people over the last 28 years have added. And then looking from the wall down into West Berlin, this is June the 17th Strasse, named after the 1953 uprising, but the young people here already have renamed it November the 9th Strasse. That's the memorial there you can see in the haze from the Napoleonic Wars at the end of the 19th century. There is a party going on here. The border guards have come down off the wall from where you're looking at it, but to the left and the right, they're still up there on the wall, just keeping out of shot, I think, of the cameras. Well, today in this special programme, we'll be reflecting these momentous events, what they mean for Berlin, for the two Germanys, for Europe and for the world. And it has been truly momentous, a world-shattering story, not only for its significance, but also for the pace at which it happened, the speed at which it unfolded. Throughout October, thousands in East Germany had demonstrated demanding reforms. The government promised talks on all questions. October 18th saw Herr Honecker replaced by Herr Krenz and others from the old guard stepped down. The final phase began on November the 4th with 1 million demonstrators on the streets of East Berlin. Next day, the government eased the travel laws, but November the 6th saw mass demonstrations across East Germany. On the 7th, the government resigned. On the 8th, the Politburo went too. The moderate Hans Modroff was proposed as Prime Minister. On November the 9th, the new government opened East Germany's border, and the people stormed the walls. By November the 10th, thousands had come to the west. New crossing points were created. The wall was finally breached. Among those helping me tell this extraordinary story from Berlin are News at 1's John Souchet, from the News at 5:40 and News at 10, Trevor MacDonald, and from ITN's Channel 4 News, John Snow. This Sunday morning in Berlin has been like no other. As always, people from the east and west came to the crossing points, but this time they were free to go over and to come back again. They went to church, as many of them often do, but this time they could go to the same service. They went to the park for a walk, this time together. The wall is still there, but it's been breached. Trevor MacDonald reports now on just what that means for the people of East and West Berlin.
When the pace of change has gathered momentum here, it's done so with bewildering speed and passion. It's 4 o'clock, long before daybreak, on a bitterly cold Berlin morning. But already East German border guards are dismantling part of the wall at Potsdamer Platz, site of Hitler's bunker. Watching from West Berlin as they've done for several hours, the crowd shout ecstatically, "We're coming." But it was from the east that they came 4 hours later, steaming first into no man's land, still in East German control. In the middle of this populist surge, yet another moment of history. The mayor of East Berlin, Herr Kratz, sets off to meet his opposite number in the west. A simple affair, but in these momentous times, a meeting of profound significance. Touchingly, before they finally left the east, the crowds were given a lecture by a border guard on the new discipline required in these heavy times. advice was taken in good spirit, and the moment of actual crossing into the West had come. Some were taking with them souvenirs of the part of the wall which came down today. By 10 this morning, West Berliners gathered at a church which was bombed during World War II, and which has itself become a memorial and a symbol of the city's hope. West Berlin's mayor, fresh from his meeting with his East Berlin counterpart, was there. In the grounds of the church, Berlin's newest visitors were being given coffee and cake. Once in the 17th century, Berlin actively encouraged immigration. Times have changed, but the warmth of the people here has remained. Again, today, Sunday, banks remained open for the sole purpose of giving East Berliners the 100 marks or £30 they're all entitled to. For 3 days, the city has become crisscrossed by queues for banks. This morning in Berlin, coming as it does after the remarkable events of the last week, has given this resilient city, people and politicians, a chance to reflect on the future. They see what has happened here as an unmistakable sign that the Eastern Bloc dictatorships across their borders are in retreat. The very foundations of post-war Europe have been shaken. Berliners want to know what the new political vision will be. For the people crossing Checkpoint Charlie this morning, there were perhaps no thoughts of political future. But they must have reflected how after only 2 days, this crossing is becoming routine. Before lunch today, the Berlin Philharmonic, one of the world's great orchestras, and conducted by Daniel Barenboim, gave a special concert to celebrate the crossing of the people from East Germany. For them, there were free tickets, and music which more so than any political rhetoric speaks eloquently of German aspiration.
Here at the Brandenburg Gate, we've seen the focus of the celebrations over the last 3 days, and there have been some truly extraordinary moments when the youngsters first dared to scale the wall, when the East German border guards came across and pushed them off again, and when the people began the process of chipping away at the wall which has divided their city for 28 years. Well, the party's still going on, and David Sater is down there amongst the people. David, what's the atmosphere like with you?
Well, all morning the people have been streaming past the wall. They've come to stare and take part in this moment of history. They've been drinking champagne, throwing flowers at the guards. I've got part of that crowd with me now. Could you tell me, Erica, exactly what this has been like for you?
Oh, I think it's the most wonderful day of my life because I was 9 years old when they built this wall, and I couldn't believe that they would, I don't know the word. Demolish it, yes. And so it's wonderful. Everyone is coming here looking through the wall, and they're standing there taking flowers, and we can speak with them, and I couldn't believe that it's true, really.
Thanks very much. Angelica, you've come here too to take part in this. Exactly what's your reaction to it all?
Well, it's very touching to me, and it's just fantastic. I mean, it's just the most amazing thing which happened to Germany in the last 40 years, actually. So, I mean, it's just wonderful that we don't need this wall anymore, and it's over now.
I also have with me Stephanie. Stephanie, you've been here about 6 months. What do you make of it all?
Yes, it's great. It's unbelievable for me, you know. I watch television 2 days long, and it's great.
Okay, thanks. Turner, what about you?
You must imagine I was just sitting for 2 days in front of radio and television, and then I thought it's such a great moment for all Germans, and it's all for the whole world. But I think you just have to go there and take part in, and the most amazing...
Okay, thanks. That's all we've got time for. Thanks very much indeed, and now back to Alistair.
Thank you, David. For many in the East, the West must have appeared like an Aladdin's cave of goodies. Shops full to bursting, political freedoms taken for granted, the liberty to say what you want and go where you want. Well, that's what the people in the East had heard about, but now they've had the chance to find out what it's really like for themselves. John Souchet has been with a family from the East who were amazed at the pace with which the city opened up and became free. He's been with them, finding out what the West is like.
Their train from Rostock had left at 3 in the morning. More than 1,000 people crammed onto it. For 5.5 hours, Simone Krauleides sat on the toilet seat, her daughter Nancy on her lap, her husband Roberto at her feet. Now they were in East Berlin to join thousands more, waiting patiently at the border to cross for a day into the West. Queuing is a daily fact of life for East Europeans, whether for meat, fruit or bread. So they're used to it. What strikes you first about these people is how relaxed they are. There's no sense of excitement, there's no sense of rush. Because these people are not leaving home. They'll be back here in East Berlin tonight. They're having a day out. They want a taste of a life that they've read about in the newspapers and that they've seen on television, but that they've never experienced for themselves. Through Checkpoint Charlie, and the Krauleides step onto Western soil for the first time in their lives. Where now? Another queue to a bank to collect the 200 Deutschmark welcome money from the West German government. That's £60 to add to the £10 they brought with them. To the Kurfürstendamm now, West Berlin's famous shopping street that Simone has seen on TV, read about in the papers, and dreamed of. And dream is all she can do. There's practically nothing in this women's shop for under £100. And amid the sophistication, the Krauleides feel out of place in their bomber jackets. Across the street, trainers from £50 up. Difficult for a man who earns around £35 a week. The Krauleides are both bakers. They have 2 children, one at school today. They live in a 2-room flat with no bath. Jointly, they earn around £300 a month. Half that goes on rent, electricity and food. With around £40 a week for clothes for the whole family, there can be no new trainers. They have no car and no phone, 10-year waiting lists for both. They have a black and white TV and are saving up for a family holiday in Poland. Certainly jeans at £30 are out of the question. Fortunately, they're too full round the hips, and anyway, in East Germany, jeans are just £2. The Krauleides have found a less expensive shop for a present for their 7-year-old son. But sweatshirts at £5.50 are still too much. Braces at £1.50 though, that's perfect. In fact, they'll buy him 2. It's extraordinary. This is probably the busiest shopping day West Berlin has ever known. Just look at the crowds down there. The irony of it is, most of them are East Berliners, and they simply aren't buying anything. For East Germans, West Berlin is a city to look at and dream. Wouldn't you just have the sound? Were Roberto and Simone astounded, I asked them over dinner, that their country was breaking free? No, they replied, except for the sheer speed of it. Would they like to come and live in the West? No, the people aren't as friendly here as in the East, and how on earth would they find a job? They're happy for life in the West to remain a dream. It's easy to forget that this has been a two-way process. Most of the traffic has been people coming from the East into the West, but West Berliners are now able to explore the East as well. Gavin Scott joined one family on just such a journey of discovery.
Helga and Inga Gubrecht, aged 12 and 9, have lived in Berlin nearly all their lives and never set foot in most of it. Their parents, Jürgen and Gudrun, are determined this state of ignorance will end. This weekend, they piled the family in the car and headed to the Berlin Wall. But though the tide of freedom may be running at the full, it hasn't yet swept away East German bureaucracy. 2 hours later, they still hadn't got through the checkpoint queues. 2.5 hours later, however, they were finally in East Berlin's famous Alexanderplatz. Jürgen was telling the children not to expect too much of communist department stores, except size. A glance at the Christmas window confirmed this. Even the dwarf looked unconvincing. But the children were impressed by the glitzy-looking space-age TV tower and insisted on going up it. 365 metres in the air, the children were finally face-to-face with the whole of the city they live in. The river, the S-Bahn, the rows of regimented tower blocks. But they didn't properly understand what the war was about, even when their mother tried to combine a little political history with an English lesson.
You see, when you look out of the window, the wall. It's white from the side, and it's not colored as we see it from the West Berlin side. Think about today. All the people from East Berlin can come to West Berlin. About 28 years, it was not allowed to come to West Berlin.
The significance of today for the Gulbrecht family is not just the fact that they brought their children to see East Berlin for the first time, but also that they're able to show them the historic part of the city the West has been cut off from for so long.
Nor is it just the city's distant past the children can come to grips with in the east. These bullet holes in the church wall date from Hitler's last stand. But the family was in for a disappointment when they got to what they hoped to be the high point of their trip, the Brandenburg Gate. The soldiery was back and keeping the civilians well away from the gate itself.